All right, y'all. Welcome back to Gaming Memory Lane. And this week, our destination is yet another arcade classic, Asteroids. Now, we are slowly but surely coming to the end of arcade games before I start getting to some bigger titles. I got a few more titles up my sleeve here that we're going to do within the coming weeks. But this week is going to be Asteroids. Now, Asteroids, just like all the other games we talked about in the past few weeks, comes from, the golden age of arcade gaming. Like this was another game that everyone knows, everyone's played, and had a line of people on it when it first came out. Now, as always, I'm gonna get down to the facts before I talk about my memories about it. So first of all, it's a game that came out in 1979. It was developed and published by Atari, released by Taito, Taito and Sega released it in Japan. Now, Asteroids, it was conceived and designed by Lyle Rains and Ed Logg, and they used the same hardware that was developed by Wendy Allen at the time. Uh, the name was Howard Dellman. And the hardware was previously used for another game called Lunar Lander. And, Asteroids was based on an unfinished game called Cosmos. So, like, this whole thing was just kind of, I wouldn't say like recycled, but it was definitely like, you know, they definitely had a base to build off of. Asteroids did, and they turned it into something, I guess, revolutionary, if you want to call it that, because it says right here that Asteroids was like one of the first games and first major hits of the golden age of arcade gaming. So like Asteroids will be on that list, especially in the tops when you're talking about like the early days of it, before games like Pac-Man and Galaga and Dig Dug all came out. We had Asteroids, and so Asteroids originally it was inspired by games like Space War, Computer Space, and Space Invaders. Now we talked about Space Invaders already. Now that's also definitely one of the first when you think of you know the golden age of arcade gaming. And not Space Invaders, sorry, Asteroids. Asteroids influenced games like Defender and Gravitar, and it was also one of the first games to track high scores and allow names or initials, if you will. So like how if you hit the leaderboard for the high scores and whatnot, you get to put in your initials. You know, Asteroids is one of the first games to do that, and one of the first games to allow that. And Atari, sorry, I'm blinking. I got lost in my notes. Atari, you know, has always been a game developer. I believe they still are before they got into consoles. Now, Asteroids uh, got a port on the Atari as well. That's why I first played Asteroids. I don't think I've ever played Asteroids on an actual arcade cabinet like I have Dig Dug or Pac Man, but I definitely played it on the Atari. And of course, like compilations and all that stuff. But the uh, the objective of the game is it's an addicting objective, just like all the arcade games were back then. They were pretty addictive. You're this spaceship, which was basically this triangle, and you shoot missiles at asteroids. And there's other like ships that shoot at you, and you have to avoid being shot or colliding with an asteroid. Now, the bigger the asteroid, the harder it is because big asteroids, when you shoot them, they will break into smaller asteroids. So you had large, medium, and small. The small asteroids, you shoot them once, they're done. Medium, you have to shoot them twice because you shoot it, then they'll break apart to a small one. You shoot it again, and I think the big asteroids, the large ones, you shoot them about 3 or 4 times. So like you shoot them again, they'll break off into medium and then break off into small pieces. And then, so eventually, just like any other game, the further you proceed, the more hectic it gets. So you have more asteroids, you have much more larger asteroids moving in. So now you shoot the larger asteroids, and now you have a bunch of medium asteroids, and you have a bunch of small asteroids, and then you get these other ships that are shooting missiles at you. So eventually, the screen is filled, and it's one giant clusterfuck of a game to play now. And now you just have to move on precision and speed and accuracy and just shoot and shoot and shoot. Just move around your joystick, keep tapping that button. Avoid getting hit and just clear the screen as last as long as you can. Try to get that high score, just like all these games where it's just try to get that top score and try to hold it. That's your reputation as a gamer back in the 80s. And of course with that comes the addiction. That's how the game got so addictive and eats all your quarters or tokens or whatever you were playing with. uh Says right here in my notes that Atari has earned $150 million in sales from the cabinets that they sold. So they sold roughly uh just about 50,000 cabinets of like the actual stand upright cabinets, the actual classic arcade cabinets, and he sold roughly about 9,000 cocktail cabinets. Those are like the tabletop ones. You know what I'm talking about? Basically just like half the size. So it's like basically just like the upper half of an arcade cabinet. So like it'd just be sitting on a table or a counter or something at a bar or whatever you were at. You know, they sold about 9,000 of those. So that's about 59,000 or so units considered, especially within the first year or two of this game being released. And like I said, Atari has earned $150 million in sales around that time. Uh, However, the cabinet, the game itself, I should say, Asteroids itself, has earned about $700 million in 1980. Sometime in 19, so about the first year and a half of its release, it hit $700 million back then, which with the inflation calculator, that's about $3 billion today. All right, billion with a B. Now to go back, when I was saying about is a game that takes your coins and quarters and whatnot, it made about $500 million from quarters alone. Like the arcade operators, so like arcades, anyone who had this in their place. So arcades, laundromats, bowling alleys, bars, you name it. Uh, that's insane. That's a lot of money, especially within the first year to year and a half of this game being released. It hit almost $1 billion back then. I mean, $1 billion today is a lot of money. $1 billion in 1980 was a lot more money because everything was so much cheaper back then. And it's just insane that that much money can come from a video game, especially an arcade game. Now you think today video games accumulating that much money, that's nothing because you can buy it physically, you can buy it digitally, you can do whatever. Some games host tournaments, some games don't. They have the online leaderboards and stuff like that. Sorry, my shit's fucking up. But it was you know all about grabbing the attention and making the game addictive, because these games are supposed to be addictive and they're supposed to be tough because it was designed to take your quarters. Because like if you with one quarter, I'm not saying it wasn't possible, it most certainly was, but it wasn't easy to go ahead and do a full playthrough and beat the game all the way with one quarter, with one coin. you know like if that was that case, then you know it's gonna take time. Like, sure, there were games that were probably easier to do that, like Frogger and maybe Donkey Kong and stuff like that. But how many people got it on the very first try? You don't, because there was no internet back then, so there was no such thing as looking up a walkthrough or a playthrough, to get an idea what the game is. It was to go leave your house to actually go somewhere to play this game, and that's how you found out what the game was all about, by actually finding out, playing it yourself. I kind of miss those days because, yeah, sure, maybe like the early 2000s, we did have internet, but not everyone had internet. Internet was a luxury compared to it being a necessity nowadays because everything needs the damn internet now. But of course, there was strategy guides and games came with manuals, but still, it's not like you had that stuff in your possession. Maybe if you went to a store or something and just so happened to see it along with the magazines and whatnot, you can read a few minutes of it while you're in the line waiting for your turn to pay for your stuff or buy it. But that's all we had. Especially now, we don't have the internet in our pockets back then. We do now. Don't need a computer to do research. Just need your phone. But I remember this game. It definitely shows. I think still thinks it stands the test of time. I'm sure the graphics and the design of it's pretty rudimentary. A black background with white outlines. Everything is just shapes drawn with white lines, but it works because it's supposed to resemble space. You're in outer space, but it worked. Like the game was addicting. I still think it is. That's just come on, man. Just one more time, man. I'll get it this time. I'll pass number one. You know, but just like any other of those games where you get so close to beating that high score and just like that last fraction of a second you get hit, game over. It's just and then time to put in another quarter. And what was it? Oh, it was anybody seen the show Everybody Hates Chris? There was an episode dedicated to about getting a high score on Asteroids when Chris would go to the corner store called Doc's that he ended up working at, and there was Chris had the high score. He was considered the best Asteroids player, had a reputation for it, and someone new in the town comes in, just beats his high score, and then now the whole episode just came a competition between him and the other guy, Chris and the other guy, and they were betting money on it. Chris lost. So it's like, I mean, it kind of, I mean, it's just a show. Sure, it's a TV show, but I'm sure back then it was like that. It's like, yeah, man, I got $3 that says you can't beat my high score, and it's like, well, I got five that says I can. You know, so either someone lost money or won money. It's the kids were going crazy, whether you were a teenager or not. But that's how you spent your spare time if you had it. You know, it's it's just another thing that I believe deserves an episode here in memory lane. Like, sure, it's definitely retro, and it's definitely a game that a lot of people play and a lot of people know and recognize. But it's just like the core memory of like it's mainstream attention still to this day. Like it pops up on TV shows, it pops up on merchandise, compilations. Like it's still a game that people play today. Not as heavy as like Pac-Man or Miss Pac-Man or even like Donkey Kong when it comes to like arcade games, but you'll still see it. This game still has a base, it still has fans. People still play it. And I've played it as a kid. Like I said, I never played it on an actual arcade cabinet. I played it on the Atari, but I've played it, and I most certainly have my memories of it. It was one of the games. I didn't necessarily have gamer rage at the time I was playing this. I was still too young to have all that, but like it was definitely a first game. I was just like, oh, like as a kid, something as uh so primitive, I guess, as that. Because when I first started gaming, I was playing Super Nintendo. I mean, it still looks primitive because like it's a black screen with drawings with white lines. But as a kid, I still found it fun. Like I play that. I was like, okay. Then I'll go back on my Super Nintendo and I'll play Super Mario or Contra or something with stuff with color and graphics. But or and when we had the Atari for a while, so it's like, okay, I'll play a little bit of this because I like these arcade games. Then I'll go back to playing uh, Spyro or Twisted Metal on the PlayStation. It's it was just a time that it's just so simple. Like even as a kid, I still appreciated how simple and how basic it was because it was just like one joystick, one button. Like okay, anybody can play this. You don't need to know all this stuff. Sure, like I'm good with my hands. I'm sure gaming had to help with that, but because you need nowadays you need to use all 10 of your fingers to play games versus just one or two, but it's a game that I tend to want to bring attention to and give it its flowers because it's primitive. It definitely shows how far gaming has come, and it definitely shows like it's gotten ports, it's gotten remasters, there's different versions of it. I have Asteroids on the PlayStation 1, have yet to play it, but I'm sure it's going to be different because it's, now it's, the 1990s version of Asteroids. So whatever that looks like, I haven't played it yet, so when I do, I'll find that out, you know. Personally, I don't like to lecture. I can always go on YouTube or something to find a let's play of it or whatever, but I don't like to do that with every game. I like my games when I do, especially when I do let's plays on YouTube. I like to do blind playthroughs because I just think the reactions are more genuine that way. Like it doesn't feel like a forced reaction. Some games are okay. Like I like to play. Well, let's just say something like right now I'm doing Batman Arkham Asylum. I played the hell out of that game when it first came out, and I still do. I know everything about that game. So some games it's okay. Some big games like that, it's okay because then it becomes a walkthrough. Like, okay, well, this is how you guys do this. This is how you guys do that. This is where you can get this. You know, but something like an arcade game or something that doesn't have, you know, something that's not open world like that. I prefer to have a blind playthrough. Let's discover this together. And even if it's something retro and I never played, but you have, then sure, put in the comments of like, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing right? Uh, because it's my first time playing it. So it's trying to keep it genuine. Asteroids, on the other hand, some of these games have been out for so long. Like if you never played some of these arcade games, like Pac-Man and Dig Dug and Frogger and Asteroids and Space Invaders, you need to. That's kind of where it all started. Of course, there's Pong. That's where it really started. But you know, we can go there and move on up. But I think I don't know which one it is. I don't think it's one of the Pac-Man ones. It might be the Galaga Galaxian arcade cab. One of them has Asteroids on the arcade one up. I just can't remember which one it is. I don't feel like looking it up right now because I think my phone fucks up my mic, picking up its signals and shit. That's what that vibrating was earlier because my phone went off. Like, really, man? So, as far as my memories go, it's just there wasn't a whole lot of memories because I played it for a little bit, but it's like, I did prefer the other games. I preferred Pac Man. I preferred Dig Dug. I preferred Frogger and Space Invaders compared to this. This game's fun. You can have fun with this. It's a good, just like any other arcade game, it's a good brain rot, time killer kind of game. Like, okay, well, I got 10 minutes to kill. Play a little bit of Asteroids. Fuck it, why not? Because that's what made these games so good. Like, there's no story to them. There's nothing like you're gonna miss. Sure, there was no pause button, but like, play until you die. Like, okay, or if you don't, just turn the game off and come right back to it. Like, if you're really trying to beat the high score, that's leave that for the arcade days. But if you're at home playing and you're the only one playing the system, the hell with that high score. Just have your fun. You know. So it's not like you need to like save it or do a save state or something because I mean you're just gonna come right back to that cluttered mess anyway. Like I said, the further the game goes on, the more asteroids you face on and ships and stuff dodging missiles. It becomes a clusterfuck. Now that little triangle ship is gonna get lost in those asteroids. So it's just like you just keep moving and keep shooting. That's it. Like there's not really a whole lot I can say. And I know a lot of these games I haven't really been saying any flaws about them. I know I've been saying a lot of good stuff. Like because with these arcade games, like what are the flaws? Like, oh, this one moves slow, this one moves too fast. It's hard. Like that's just how it was. It was designed to take your coins and quarters. You know, and sure, like I did like mobile games and flash games, but like we already kind of know the bads of those because they're free games you can download on either your mobile device or play them directly on your browser, like on Google. Like these people with those games, like the flash games and stuff, weren't professionals. They were just people trying to make a game. Like the people who made these arcade games were professionals, but at the same time, it's just that was just a product of the time. This is a game that came out in 1979, and you play it, you can look at it and tell it's a game that came out around that time. So it's not really a thing I can say about the graphics other than it's rudimentary, but shit, like the graphics for the game and the concept, it works. Like it also just made it tougher too, because like I said, you'll get lost in all those asteroids, but that's good. That's kind of the point, for it to be tough and to take your quarters. That's how it earns so much money. Like I said earlier, on quarters alone, and with it, and that causes it to be addicting, and that's how it sold so many units, and that's how they made other units. So they didn't just have like the stand up, upright, normal looking arcade cabinets that we all know. That's why they had the cocktail ones, which is like I said, the tabletop ones, because those were less material, probably easier to make, so they were probably cheaper than the big ones. So a lot of people bought those because they wanted those in their places so they can accumulate money off of those. And it works. So sure, you can call it as rudimentary and primitive as you want. It worked. It worked. Asteroids was a game that worked. It got the money. It got the attention. It got in the bowling alley. It got in the arcade. It got in the bar. It got in the movie theater. It got in the indoor amusement park. Some amusement parks have like a little arcade center. It got there, and it's getting money, and it's gotten its reputation. It's gotten its attention. It's gotten its love, and here it is today, getting its flowers. Sure, I'm not the only one to talk about asteroids, but like I said, I'm one of many who give it the attention it deserves from a game that's retro, still somewhat talked about today, and still can be addicting, you know, especially for the people who's played it back in the day. Like I said, like I was born in the 90s, so I had Super Nintendo and PlayStation. I didn't have, actual arcades or Atari. Like I said in my arcade episodes a few weeks back, like there was still some around, but like I wasn't, I was just a kid. I'm not going to be this little 3, 4-year-old kid going to an arcade by myself like some of you did when you were teenagers and whatnot, but I still had my moments with arcades. I still had my moments with this, but this was one of the few arcade games I didn't play on an actual arcade cabinet. I played it on at home on a TV. And like I said, the Atari, I mean, it worked. It's an Atari console that plays in an Atari game because Atari made Asteroids. It was developed and published, I should say. But, the Atari was basically, a home video arcade system. One joystick, one button, just like many arcade cabinets were back then. Because for a lot of those games, that's really all you needed. But that's all I can say about Asteroids without going in circles. And just get. And if you haven't played, you have to just understand when I say this game becomes a clusterfuck. It's going to. It's going to get busy, real fast. Like I said, you see big asteroid coming at you, you shoot the big asteroid, breaks into smaller asteroids, then you shoot the smaller asteroids, it turns into even smaller asteroids. Like it'll get real busy real fast. So be aware of that if you never played it before and you decide to play it now. And while you're doing that, be sure to follow my plugs, as in my socials, Facebook and Instagram, Kevin Gill Gaming. Um, Seeing my follower accounts go up slowly but surely, but they're still going up, and I love that. That's cool. That's progress. Let's make progress, baby. My YouTube, Kevin Gill Gaming. Be sure to check out my Batman Arkham Asylum playthrough. That's what I'm currently uploading. But I have other videos up there like um, Super Mario World, WWE Here Comes the Pain. Got a few excuse me, a few episodes of some Flash games that I played, and a few episodes of The Evil Within. Uh, and of course, more games to come. Getting a lot of attention on my YouTube. I love it. I love it. I have well over 100,000 views. I'm getting closer to 100 subscribers. It's I'm having my fun over there. I love it. That's awesome. Speaking of awesome, of course, the podcast. The podcast is showing love. I'm getting my downloads. I'm getting my followers. I'm getting the love on it, the views. It's great. The attention I'm getting on this is awesome. Keep that up. We got to keep it going. Got to keep it going. And with that being said, till next time, I'm out.